So in this video, we are looking at solving an equation for a requested variable. In other words, we're solving formulas for specified variables. The particular equation or formula that we're looking at is B times the quantity dq plus k, quantity closed, equals z plus v. And we're asked to do two separate things. First, we're asked to solve for B, and then second, we're asked to solve for Q. So part one, we will solve for B. So solve for B. And I'm going to write down my formula that I'm starting with, which is B times the quantity dq plus k equals z plus v. Now, formulas are often challenging for students, and especially formulas that have nothing but variables in them. So it gives people some stomach ache sometimes. But this one, I don't want you to overthink it, and it's very easy to overthink it. Let's take a closer look at this. We're taking a formula and we're solving for the letter B. So where in this formula do you see B? We see it right here. B is being multiplied by a quantity, and that equals z plus v. So what if we want to get B by itself? Well, because it's being multiplied by a quantity, to get B by itself, we could do the opposite operation of multiplication and divide. That is, to get B by itself, all we need to do is divide by the quantity dq plus k. So if I take my formula B times the quantity dq plus k, and to get B by itself, divide by dq plus k, well, that will remove that factor from the left side, but we know whatever we do to the left side of an equation, we also must do to the right side of an equation. Therefore, we must divide the right side by dq plus k. And what that does is that simply allows us to cancel that entire factor, dq plus k. So dq plus k divided by dq plus k is just 1, so that just leaves us with B on the left side. That is, B is equal to the quantity of z plus v divided by dq plus k. One quick and easy step, and we have now solved our formula for B. All right, let's proceed now, and let's solve the second part of this formula, which is now we want to take the same formula, but this time we want to solve for Q, okay? So now we're going to solve for Q. Solve for Q. And our formula again is B times the quantity dq plus k equals z plus v. All right, so let's identify that variable we're solving for. It's Q, right? And where do we see Q present? Q is only present one place. But this time our Q, what we're solving for, is inside the parentheses. It is multiplied by D, added to K, and then all of that is multiplied by B. So to get Q by itself, we're going to have to get Q out of that quantity. We're going to have to bring it outside. So the first step in this process to find this formula solved for Q is to actually use the distributive property. So let me just write that down. If I distribute or use the distributive property, that will help me get Q out of the parentheses. So let's apply the distributive property. That is, we're going to take B and we're going to multiply it times dq, and then we'll take B and multiply it by k. And that's going to give us B dq plus bk equals z plus v. But what that's done is it's taken that q out of that parentheses, outside that parentheses. And that's my focus. My focus is to get q by itself. So if I want to get q by itself, that means I need to move everything away from it. And when we solve equations, remember, what do? We always save dividing for last when we solve equations, when we have multiple steps involved. So our first step is to actually get rid of this bk right here. So we are going to use the addition-subtraction property and subtract bk from both sides, okay? Now the funky thing with formulas is we've got lots of letters, and the only time you can combine them together is if they're like terms or like letters. So on the right side, I have z, which is one variable, v, which is a different variable, and minus bk, which is an entirely different variable. We can't put them together other than just stringing them along as a big summation. All right, so far so good. So our first step was to use the addition-subtraction property and get rid of that bk. Now, again, I'm trying to get q by itself, right? We're solving for q. What do I know? Q is a factor being multiplied by b and d. And so to get q by itself, I simply have to get rid of the bd. But because they're multiplied by q, to remove them, I have to do the opposite operation, which is division. That is, I'm going to take b dq, and to get q by itself, I'm simply going to divide by the factor bd. And when I do it to the left side, I'm also going to have to do it to the right side. So on the right side, we have z plus v minus bk divided by bd. And that means bd divided by bd is 1. So that goes away, and we're left just with q on the left side. We have now solved our formula for q. We have q equals z plus v minus bk all over bd. Not too bad when you go slow.